We want, not me, but we want that.
Can you bring one book?
It's facing good.
Very good.
Which one?
Good.
One is facing good.
Let me get a book. Do you see anything?
It's backward. This is how it looks.
That was better.
It's live, right?
Huh?
Yes.
See, it's live again.
Put this up here.
Crash.
Laptop.
Or we can move the laptop.
Forwardly. I think it's giant.
Hmm?
Oh, this.
No, what's that? I meant, that's great, but what I meant is putting this thing, maybe you could put this
How
thing.
about on top of this territory?
Okay. I have a battery. So
Okay.
take it out.
Yeah. Right on top. How does that look?
Still this way.
Right position. Position right. See, it's in the middle.
Better than TV.
Better?
But it's not about TV cover. This is, we don't have so much options in this. To only capture
In this one? Camera?
No.
Or in this one?
No, on this. How would we maximize this so it can fall completely?
We're at 6:30 already.
Phone will also.
Okay, let's just go. Boom.
I cannot see.
Jaya Radha Madhava Panjabi Sari Jaya Radha Madhava Panjabi Balabha Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Prajajanaranja Yasodanandana Prajajanaranja Jamuna Tira Vajajani Yamuna Tira Vajajani Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Vishnupada Paramahamsa Harivirgacharya Astantarasatasi Srimad His Divine Grace Easy Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Lord Kimanandi. Shravan, are you watching online?
It's good, Raj.
Tell me how the volume is.
It's good, Raj.
The volume is good? Okay, because I got some feedback. They can't always hear. They can hear? Okay. So, very interesting way of getting used to presenting Krishna consciousness to a virtual audience. But Haribol, virtual audience. And we're all social distancing, we're being good Prabhus here. So don't worry. You see on the screen there's a very nice painting of Lord Brahma. So we're going to begin with asking you online and you in the room a short phrase of something that when you hear about Lord Brahma, what do you think of? Shravan, will start with you. When you hear Lord Brahma, what do you think of? Short phrase.
Meditation on mantra.
Meditation on mantra. What do you think of? Brahma Samhita. Fantastic. Same, Brahma Samhita. Anything. Brahma. When you think of Lord Brahma, what do you think of? He was created by Vishnu. Which Vishnu, do you remember? Starts with a G. Garbhadakshay Vishnu, right.
Meditation on the Supreme Personality.
Meditation on the Supreme Personality Godhead. Well, he's showing his meditation beads. What's that in his left hand over there? That's the Vedas. He's the original receiver of the Vedas. He's the head of our Sampradaya, the original being. Another one of his names is Aja. Ja indicates birth, and Aja indicates he was self-born. There was no mother, just directly from the body of Garbhadakshay Vishnu. He's the most learned person in the universe. He's the grandfather of all living entities within the creation. He has a very important position. There's an image of, on the cover of Brahma Samhita, this is his tapa, which was a form of meditation on mantra, where he realized the personality of Godhead, and that image is Krishna playing his flute, and the flute sound entered Brahma's ear in the form of one of his two Gayatri mantras, and he meditated on his mantra, and down below you see the ocean of the Garbhodak water, Garbhodak ocean splashing around, and the stem of the lotus coming from the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. This is another ISKCON painting. It shows some of the things that Brahma created. Here's the emotions, here's the Vedas, there's the four Kumaras from his forehead. Different rishis came from different parts of his body. Narada came from his chest, and so forth. These are syllables within the Sanskrit text. Here's the part of the Vedas that deals with music, and so forth and so on. The Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Brahmanas all come from him. Here's Kardama Muni, sages performing sacrifice, and so on. He's very powerful personality. And different entities came directly from his body. So we're going to be discussing the first few verses of chapter 14. This is Brahma's prayers. But before we get to Brahma's prayers, we're going to be discussing the introduction to Brahma's prayers. That's the summary of chapter 13. So there's 14. There we go. His prayers are the entirety of chapter 14. And we'll be discussing now, here's Brahma. We'll hear the prayers of Brahma as he's bowing before Krishna in Vrindavan, with Krishna raising his right hand on the branch of that tree. In his left hand is a lump of yogurt and fruit, after having displayed some amazing scene to Krishna, which we're going to describe this evening. So the section opens with Krishna going off in the morning to herd the cows. There's the cows, and there's the cowherd boys. Actually, they're calves because Krishna is very young. And Mother Jasoda, she's very attached to Krishna. She has, just behind her, she has necklaces, and she has turbans, and all kinds of decorations, and Krishna is patiently waiting for her to finish decorating him. The cowherd boys are, Mother Jasoda, hurry up, we have to go herd the cows, the calves. So there's this beautiful scene described. Krishna's going out daily. She's so attached to Krishna, every 2 steps. She'd call his name, he'd stop. She'd look and make sure he had enough in his lunchbox. Mother, I have to go now. And so then another 2 or 3 steps, and she'd adjust his belt around his waist, and make sure that Balaram would stay by his side and look after him, because Krishna was a little mischievous sometimes. But Balaram was the elder brother, and finally Krishna was able to go, and Mother Jasoda was in deep separation from Krishna all day long, as Krishna was involved in herding Gosh. There we go. Herding the calves in the forest of Vrindavan. Very beautiful painting. So, what is described in this chapter 13 is they didn't actually herd the calves. They just played. And wherever they went, the calves went because they were attached to Krishna. And sometimes they would make imitation of frogs getting ready to jump, or peacocks that were strutting, or birds that were taking flight, just imitating the forest animals. And then sometimes they play games like this one. This is Krishna has stolen the lunch of Madhu Mangal. And Madhu Mangal would run after Krishna, and then Krishna would throw the lunch to one of the other cowherd boys, and he'd go running to the other cowherd boys who would throw the lunch to another cowherd boy, and Madhu Mangal would curse them. You're taking the property of a Brahmana. You're in big trouble. Give me my lunch right away. And they would laugh and laugh. And sometimes the cowherd boys would sit together with Krishna. The slide's not changing for some reason. There we go. Krishna would sit under a tree, and the cowherd boys would just be enchanted like anything, hearing Krishna playing upon his flute. And many verses and verses and verses are describing the playful behavior of the cowherd boys with Krishna during the day. Much to their surprise, alongside Govardhan Hill, which you see in the background, on the same path that they traveled every day, they saw this huge cave right in the middle of the path. And they were thinking, let's go explore the cave. And as they started to explore it, they got closer, they found this bad fishy smell. And then they realized, this isn't a cave, this is a big serpent lying in the path that we normally travel every day. Let's go explore inside. And the cowherd boys started marching, as you see, entering the mouth of the serpent. Now the serpent, Krishna made his body really big, because one of Krishna's names is Yogeshwara. Yogeshwara means he's the Ishwara of all mystic yogas. And one of those mystic yogas is to make one's body big and big. So he got his body big and big, and the serpent kept stretching and stretching and stretching. But finally Krishna made his body so big, the serpent suffocated, and the soul came out the top of the head of the serpent. The mouth of the serpent opened, and the cowherd boys exited the serpent. Every day, around 11 o'clock, Krishna would kill a demon. Now there's prominent demons that we learn about, but there's others that are not as prominent, but it was just like a daily routine, because they were having so much fun, transcendental fun, that they wouldn't even have stopped for lunch if it wasn't some interruption. So a demon comes, Krishna kills a demon, time for lunch. Observe Krishna's pastimes, so he observed the holy hour. So that curiosity, there's no limit to Krishna's power, but he was curious. So he thought he would find out what is the limit of Krishna's power by exhibiting some of his power. So they started with the calves. So Krishna said, no, you finish your lunch. On the upper left, he put the calves and the cowherd boys in a cave, and then he went back to see what is Krishna going to do. It's described by our Acharya. Sometimes criminals, they do this. They steal, then they go back to the scene of the crime because they're attached to their wonderful exploits. And when he went back, what did he see? There's Brahma up in the sky. He saw there's the same cowherd boys and the same Krishna having their lunch. He was very puzzled because he had just left them in the cave. So we went back to the cave. And there they were in the cave. Then they went back to where they were having lunch. There they were having lunch. And then all of a sudden, surprisingly and mystically, all the cowherd boys, you see them pictured there, and just behind Krishna, each one of the cowherd boys simultaneously showing their cowherd boy form, manifested four-armed Narayan forms. And not only four-armed Narayan forms, but all the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by their opulences, headed by Anima Siddhi, by mystic potencies, headed by Aja, by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the Mahatattva. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kala, Swabhava, Samskara, Kama, Karma, and the Gunas, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of Krishna, had all taken forms and were worshipping those Vishnu Murtis. So there's the Vishnu Murtis. The painting doesn't show all these different personifications of these different potencies. But there's a very similar description found in Canto 2, Chapter 9. Canto 2, Chapter 9 is a description of Brahma doing his austerities, just like we saw in that Brahma Samhita painting cover. And after long austerity and meditation upon the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu appeared in the midst of the darkness. And I'm going to read what he saw. Text 17 from Canto 2, Chapter 9. Here's text 16. The personality of Godhead, seen leaning favorably towards his loving servitors, his very sight intoxicating and attractive, appeared to be very much satisfied. He had a smiling face, decorated with an encircling, enchanting reddish hue, dressed in yellow robes. He wore earrings and a helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. So then text 17. The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies, very similar to this description, like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6, natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord enjoying his own abode. And the purport prophet explains what's the 16 and this and that. The 6 are the 6 opulences of Bhagavan. We know what they are. He's served by the 4, which are Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatattva, and Ego. The 16, this is Sankhya philosophy, by the way. 16, 5 elements, 5 sense organs, 5 working senses, and the mind. That makes 16. The 5 included the sense objects, form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. All these 25 items serve the Lord in the material creation, and all of them are perpetually present to serve the Lord. So some of you know something about Sankhya philosophy. And Sankhya philosophy has 24, and 25 you add in time. Because these are all elements of Sankhya or segments or divisions of Sankhya philosophy that comprise the material world, and they're all servants in the spiritual realm. They're servants of the personality Godhead. They have their counterparts in a subtle form in the Sankhya system and the gross form as well in the phenomenal realm that we experience. So the point here is Krishna has not just his 6 opulences as Bhagavan, but he has unlimited potencies. All who worship the personality of Godhead. In the verse itself, it has this phrase, Atarkya Nija Mahimani. Nija means his own. Atarkya, inconceivable opulences. So that's what Brahma saw, and then we're going to begin his prayers. We're just going to cover the first few of his prayers. And the beginning section, the first 8 verses, have as a theme, how is it that you can know the unknowable? It's a contradiction, right? If something is unknowable, then you can't know it. So how can you know the unknowable? What to speak of, that unknowable possesses unlimited potencies. How are we going to understand unlimited potencies when we're limited? So that's the theme. But it starts off in Brahma's prayers, the first verse. I made this color coded, but we'll just read the translation. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. O son of the king of the cowherds, your transcendental body is dark blue just like new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning, and the beauty of your face is enchanted by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head. Wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute, you stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. Now the artist got it right. It's specified by our acharyas, because he eats with his right hand, so he's got the food in his left hand. And each of these phrases indicate, the color coding indicates, Idyate Mridu Pade is the only worshipable Lord. And Tadid Ambaraya, your garment is as brilliant as lightning, and so forth. Gunja Vatangsa, enchanted by Gunja earring. Gunja is a special kind of bush or tree in Vrindavan that produces little red berries. Chakravarti Thakur paraphrases like this. Krishna is saying, I'm a coward boy. Why are you worshipping me? You're Lord Brahma. Brahma literally means you're the greatest, most powerful, most knowledgeable, all-knowing person in the universe. That is you. Why are you offering obeisances to me? Note in the painting on the left, that's a lion. And there's lying down next to a deer. Somehow the artist snuck that into the painting. But here's text 2. My dear Lord, neither I nor anyone else can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy to me, and which appears just to fulfill the desires of your pure devotees. Although my mind is completely withdrawn from material affairs, I cannot understand your all spiritual form. How then could I possibly understand the happiness you experience within yourself? So this is Vishwanath saying, he's speaking responsive to Krishna's question, why are you worshipping me? But this is the mood of Brahma who's worshipping him. And he's just seen, remember, he's seen opulences that were mind-blowing. Each of the cowherd boys were still there, and simultaneously each of the cowherd boy forms manifested a form of Vishnu or Narayan. Meaning that the cowherd boys that were manifested, they weren't the ones in the cave, they were just identical forms that Krishna manifested by his own potencies that were actually Vishnu himself or Krishna himself expanding himself, looking exactly like the cowherd boys. Nobody can estimate the potency of this transcendental body of yours, which has shown such mercy, because Brahma, remember, he's so intelligent in detail that he knows how to build the universe. And who knows how to build even, a living entity? But he has built the whole universe with all living entities and all this and that. So how intelligent is Brahma? But he's stating, I cannot estimate, nobody can, the potency of the transcendental body of yours. That's just shown the unlimitedness of your potency. Brahma says, paraphrase now, I desire to examine the extent of your potency. I desire to understand how you will react to my showing my power in turn. You have shown such mercy to me by giving me a glimpse of who you actually are. In summary, his description. How can one estimate something that is unlimited, which can produce unlimited entities, each having unlimited potencies? It's beyond the imagination, isn't it? A different process than jnana has to be used, and that's the theme of this verse and then verses that follow. So we're just going to cover this verse. Very famous verse. If you know the verse, you can say it with me. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyamartam stane statakshuti gatam tanubanmanobhir ye prayasoji tajito pyasitais trilokyam. Sounds very nice. Prabhupada's translation. Those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words and mind offer all respects to the description of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So the emphasis is going to the bhakti process, and specifically the hearing part of the bhakti process, Shruti Gatam, translated as offering all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities. Very significant here is this sthane stita. Sthane, you stay in your position while you're staying, so somebody may be whatever they may be. One is not required to give up their activity or give up their occupation or give up their nature. They stay in their position according to nature. Sthane stita. But they shruti gatam, hear the messages of Krishna, and bhavadiya bhartam, dedicating their lives to these narrations. Ye prayaso jita. Prayaso, prayasa is endeavor. So those who endeavor in this way by hearing from Krishna or his pure devotees, they conquer your lordship who is unconquerable. And it's the only means. Although you are otherwise unconquerable, jitopi asi taistri lokyan, by anyone within the three worlds who can conquer Krishna. But one who's engaged in this hearing process can conquer the unconquerable, or can know the unknowable, or can cross mountains even if they're a lame person, or see the stars in the sky if they're a blind person, or understand the conclusive truths of the Vedas even though they may be a fool. This leaving aside jnane prayasam udapasya, throwing away the speculative process, and namanta eva, offering all respects. And this word jivanti, we're going to see it described a little bit in just a moment. This is a painting of Ramananda Roy meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the bank of the Godavari River. We visited this place in our South India tour. A very sacred place. Here's the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that was the associate that was traveling with him. Here's the ministers of the king, Prataparudra, with their musical instruments and their so forth and so on, the bards singing the praises of their king. Ramananda Roy, or governor. So that evening, when these two embraced and the people watching couldn't really understand what was going on, they decided to meet in the evening. And that very evening, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requesting Ramananda Roy, please describe the goal of life and how to reach it. And after rejecting many of our favorite verses, including Sarvadharmam Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja and so forth, he accepted this one. Ramananda Roy said, pure devotional service without any touch of speculative knowledge is the essence of perfection. And Mahaprabhu accepted, yes, this very verse. Gyane Prayasa Udapasya Namanta Eva. And the same idea is expressed by the Hangsa avatar. Here he is, Hangsa avatar. And he's delivering the knowledge of the Vedas to the four Kumaras. In case you want to know, the four Kumaras received transcendental knowledge both from Ananta and from Hangsa avatar. And they then proceeded with establishing their own sampradaya. But the Hangsa avatar expresses like this: if we don't see the factual relationship between matter and Krishna, we are not seeing accurately. Our blunt material senses being contaminated by material conception of life or material consciousness, we perceive something, but we perceive matter without Krishna, or the relationship between matter and the source of matter, Krishna. And if we don't see that relationship, guaranteed we're not going to see accurately. This is Brahma is expressing it in reverse by what you've shown me. Now I can understand who you actually are, and one who sees Krishna as he actually is can see the relationship between all things, including matter, with Krishna. Here's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. This is again Ramananda Roy and his conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything, mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. They see matter, but they see matter in connection with the foundation of matter, or the source of matter, the Supreme Lord. And in the most mature stages, they can actually see the form of the Lord, as well as seeing matter. Prabhupada explains like this: the Krishna conscious person does not see the tree, but sees Krishna present. That is Krishna consciousness. You don't see the tree, you see Krishna. Now there's a nice tree, really big one. See how small the people are with horses? It's a really big tree, kind of a magical tree. There's a tree. So I see a tree and we all see a tree. But a fully Krishna conscious person doesn't just see the tree. They see Krishna. They see the tree in relation to Krishna, therefore they see Krishna. Now we're not there, so how do we understand what that is? Now Prabhupada gave a worldly example to explain what he means by this. And the example he gave, now people don't do this so much anymore, but it used to be a thing when people would save their child's baby shoes. And then wherever they would place their child's baby shoes and they'd see the baby shoes, they would see their child. Now they're seeing the shoes. They're not like the shoes become the child becomes the shoes. But in their mind's eye, the affection for their child is stirred by seeing the shoes. In their mind, this image of their child comes because of their affection for their child, and even seeing an object in relation to them. So in the advanced stage, when there's attachment for Krishna, one doesn't just see the form of the tree, one sees Krishna. This is a commentary by Sanatana Goswami on this verse. He indicates the Svetashvatara Upanishad states, very simply, Tam eva viditva, or freedom is possible only by understanding Brahman. So he raises the question in his commentary on this verse. if that's the case, then how can an arrogant person attain liberation? And the answer is provided in this verse. The answer that's provided in this verse is through the hearing process, staying in one's position, carrying out your duties according to that position, and engage in the hearing process with attachment to the hearing process. And by that attachment to the hearing process, purification comes. Even while staying in one's position, purification comes. And then gradually one can, by the mercy of Ajita, one can experience the presence of Ajita. And that way one can understand Brahman, even if someone is arrogant. Interesting, huh? And so I think we're going to end there. This is a lead to the next verse, start text 4. By the hearing process, we develop such a loving, trusted relationship with Krishna that he will say, I'm like this. You wanted to see me as I am. You wanted to serve me. Such a deep desire for so long. And I have tested you so many times, and you only chose me. Now here I am. So that's because of our time constraint, that's how far we're going to go through text 3. And text 4 is another celebrated verse. Oh, Krishna, oh, Ajita, you are conquered by this path. Let me say more about this glorious process in contrast to jnana. So that's it's bhakti is being glorified, and now coming up is the contrast of bhakti versus jnana. Why is bhakti appreciated superior to jnana? That's what's coming up. But so it starts with the bhakti process resting upon the hearing process to awaken our true devotion for Krishna. He becomes visible to us, or palpable, appreciable to us, resting upon the careful hearing of his name, his pastime, just as we're doing. These are his pastimes. Pastimes, qualities, form. The very first verse is describing his form, then his loving exchanges, and so on. This very method that Brahma is recommending is what we're doing by covering this section. So let's flip on the light. And I hope the image is transmitting to the viewers outside. And if viewers outside want to ask a question, how are they supposed to do that?
Stone.
You're going to monitor it? Okay. Anybody amongst the 5 of us here, anybody want to raise a question? Or hear some discussion on any of this? I'm listening.
I have a question on the slide you pointed out, Jnani Prayas Vallabhasya. The translation, dedicating their lives to the narrations, I couldn't follow that.
Why not? So, you have an occupation, and side by side with your occupation, it's not, say, negatively, it's not required that you give up your occupation. Shankara says you have to, and Bhagavad Gita says you don't have to. You dedicate the fruits of your work. Not karma sannyas, but karma pala sannyas. It's chapter 2, Bhagavad Gita. So you continue with your activity and simultaneously dedicate yourself to the hearing of these transcendental topics of Krishna. Not like while you're sitting in your workstation, you're hearing, you're not doing your work. you're hearing narrations about Krishna. That's not what it means. But in the fundamental elements of your life are these two things. Perform prescribed duty and always think of Krishna. And always think of Krishna is made possible by the hearing process. And hearing what? Because we are going to hear something. So hearing these narrations, dedicating oneself to that in your life. Yeah.
So, Maharaj, there are different elements involved when we offer the prayers, like we glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Speak up so the people online can hear. I can hear you, but
So,
we want them to hear too.
so there are different elements involved when we offer our prayers. So one of them is that we ask for forgiveness. We offer prayers in terms of humility and gratitude. So in the case of the humility, when we offer prayers in humility, is that we are offering prayers with the honesty or truthfulness?
Well, you know to what degree there's humility, and you know that Krishna knows to what degree there's humility. So you can offer standard prayers that are, the words are words of humility, and in your heart of hearts, you know that Krishna knows that's not the fullness of my consciousness. But you could, your prayer could be even specific enough to say, I'm not there yet, and that's an expression of humility. And so it can be explicit or implicit. What's important is that we know our capacity, and we're functioning according, and self-honesty according to our capacity or our quality. We want to cultivate humility, not pretend it. So, however the expression goes, the important, my message, my response to your question is, what's important is the self-honesty and the mood with which you're making some offering of some prayer. Like this, take Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Just the very word Namaha is meaning leaves aside false ego. Or Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. So we leave aside false ego. Well, are we? But we're cultivating that, especially if you're conscious of what the word means and you're conscious of cultivating the mood. So it's a gradual process. But it requires sound vibration and cultivation, conscious investment in that sound vibration. Like say specifically, the expressions of humility enter into that mood through sound. Although we're not there yet, we'll get there if we enter into that sound vibration in that mood. Eventually we'll get there.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
So one of the images that you showed here and also on the cover page of the 10 canto is like Krishna is in the center and then the Brajavasis were just around him.
Yeah.
And that's what Brahma also saw.
Yeah.
So the question is that if we put ourselves in the center, then Krishna, then basically that will always lead to a pride. So do you think that that can lead to a service in the mode of exploitation?
Well, in this case, Krishna is at the center, so I don't see any one of the cowherd boys at the center. Or thinking themselves that way, Krishna is at the center. So I'm not sure what your question is.
The question is that instead of Krishna, if we put ourselves in the center,
Oh, that's a problem.
and then the pride comes,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
does that lead to a service in the mode of exploitation?
Does it lead to service in exploitation,
in the mode of
in the
exploitation,
mood of exploitation.
rather than a humble servant.
Of course. Well, I don't know if it's exactly exploitation. It can lead to all kinds of things. Pride can lead to all kinds of dark things, not only exploitation. It's, you know, self-delusion and pain, because we're not at the center. So it's illusion, and that illusion is painful. Although we're thinking whatever we're thinking, we're proud.
So there is one other question that somebody asked me that I should ask you.
Okay.
This is regarding the prayer. So said that when only in distress one is able to pray from heart. Otherwise, it springs from the mind and is mechanical. Why it is so?
What are you quoting from?
Well, this is one of the questions that one of the devotees asked me that I can ask you.
Oh. This is prior to this evening, or during this evening?
General, when you offer the prayer, so the topic
Okay,
changes.
okay, it's a general question from someone in your Bhakti Viksha group. Not specific to this. Okay, read it again, because I'm a little confused by what's
This
going
is
on.
about the prayer. So, when only in distress one is able to pray from heart.
Well, that's not true. One can pray from the heart of joy. So the premise is, you know, a mistaken premise. So what would that person say? Well, what are they going to say? Do you understand their question? Does
Yeah.
that answer their question?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's asking, say, otherwise it springs from the mind and it is mechanical.
Well, but you don't have to be distressed to go beyond mechanical. You have to be honest. You can be feeling great happiness. I mean, supposing. So supposing, let's just take, you know, we're having our festival, holy name, and Badahari is leading kirtan, and you're just like getting carried away with the sound of the kirtan. I can't feelingly offering my prayer to Krishna because I'm not distressed. Okay. Anything online?
No, Guru
No.
I do have a question.
You do it. Okay.
When Lord Brahma took away the coward boys, Krishna expanded into other coward boys' forms. So in that relation, multiple times I had this question. In terms of tattva, the living entities are existing right now. Does Krishna create a new living entity, or
No. Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. Living entities don't come into being. They don't go out of being. He was manifesting himself in their likeness. It was himself. You know the story. The coward boys went home. It was actually, the mothers didn't even recognize that it was Krishna. He looked so much like their own child, etc. It went on for a year. And the calves. The cows were feeling such affection for the calves, feeding the calves like they wanted very much to give their milk directly to Krishna. But it was Krishna, not their calves. The calves were in the cave. Anything over there? No? Back there? Okay. Okay, so we're Right on time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Would you do save highlights or?
You just cancel it, bro. Just cancel. Stop.